Let me start by saying she is not his mother. As any parent does, I tell my son to give me all his dirty laundry, mostly so I don't have to touch it, so I can wash them for him. One day he was not home, so I went into his room and grabbed his dirty laundry. I notice a balled-up towel in the corner of his closet and I just grabbed the end of it, thinking it was just a towel. Nope. Out falls two of my girlfriend's recently worn, dirty underwear. I stand there coming up with crazy scenarios in my head for a second, like must have gotten caught in the towel when he was done showering, or maybe it got messed up in the clean laundry. Then the realization hits me that our laundry basket is in the bathroom where we shower. All I could say to my girlfriend was, we are about to have a weird conversation and I'm sorry. I pull out the underwear and say I found these insert son's name, room, and her jaw just drops. I didn't know what else to say besides, at least we know he likes you. Now it is a little weird and quiet around my house. The worst part is, I don't know how to bring it up to him. TL, doctor, found my girlfriend's underwear in my teenage son's bedroom when I was just looking for laundry. Now there is a weird silence when my girlfriend encounters my son. Update 1, the decision has been made to sit him down tonight after dinner. I'm going to be short and sweet about it. Tell him that I'll love him no matter what. Tell him why it wasn't okay to violate my GF's privacy. Then take the opportunity to see if he wants to talk about anything, but not force him to. Off topic, to the guy who messaged me asking to trade my girlfriend's dirty underwear for his sister's. You are disgusting. I am a white person who works the register at a gas station in a tight-knit, predominantly African-American neighborhood. Yes, this is relevant to the story. Everyone knows everyone. Yesterday, while I was checking out a customer's items, my manager came up and let me know that someone under 21 had been sold cigarettes, so we would need to crack down on IDing anyone who looks under 40. The customer I was serving looked under 40, so I fell into my script without thinking and asked for an ID. He got very upset, and it took me a couple of seconds to realize what I'd done. He was only buying soda and chips. I apologized profusely, told him he didn't need an ID, and explained what happened. He still didn't look pleased, understandable, but seemed to accept my apology, paid, and left. This morning, I woke up to a WTF text from one of my friends. It was a screenshot of a Facebook post, which was a picture of me, my name, and the gas station I work at. The post accused me of racism and it's gaining traction, with quite a few comments and a lot of likes. This will be an interesting day at work. TL, doctor, thoughtlessly asked for an ID from someone who wasn't buying alcohol or cigarettes. Accidentally became the local racist cashier. Edit, no, I'm not showing anyone the Facebook post. My face, name, and place of work isn't something I'm interested in showing random strangers on Reddit. Work hasn't been fun, but it hasn't been horrible either. People definitely recognize me. I've been cussed out a couple of times. But I haven't been shot or had my car keyed or whatever like some of y'all are saying I will. Lastly, please stop using my story as an excuse to be racist in the comments. This dude is in the minority. There I am, sitting online in a huge lecture, with only 3 people, including me, and the professor with their camera on. So you know how it is in teams. My stream occupied 1/4 of the entire lecture view in a class of roughly 80 people. My boyfriend asks if the camera is on. It's 9 AM, I'm only a few sips into my coffee. Nope. I said. He lunges over at me and gives me a huge smooch. A good 5 seconds, tongue and all, hand on my neck. We're enjoying it when I hear my professor, hello there. Is this a student joining us today? I have my headphones in so my boyfriend couldn't even hear it. I push him off, look at the camera mortified, and turn my cam off. The students and professor were not impressed. Not even a smirk or laugh, just looks of disapproval. My private chat starts blowing up with messages from peers. I'm a high-scoring student, well known to the department and faculty, being scouted as a research assistant and admission to masters. It's not like my behaviors escape under the radar. What happens now? How come I haven't combusted and sunken into the afterworld yet? Does anyone know who to call to get a new identity? Edit, it's captured on the posted recording for everyone to replay. TLDR, Boyfriend gave me a big wet kiss in front of 80 students and faculty in an online university lecture. None of them were amused. This FU happened over 2 decades ago when my first wife died as a result of a combination of comedy, tragedy of errors, and our physician was adamant that my epileptic wife was seizing because of drugs, not epilepsy. So back in 2001 my wife of 4 years 4 months, mother of my 2 sons, had a grand mal seizure directly after she accidentally pinched her arm while tying on her Celtic armband. She was taken to the hospital. I described what happened leading up to the seizure, mentioned her history of epilepsy, and the doc insisted on putting her under. No drugs to stop her from seizing, no electroencephalograph to measure her brain waves, and now she's paralyzed, so no way to tell if, she was still seizing for what would be another 38 hours. I felt every minute. Every second. Anyway, this isn't the story of the disgraced physician. This is the story behind my sudden understanding of why he may have thought she was on drugs instead, thus requiring a different level of treatment, less urgent. As we walked toward my son's football game, the Mrs., current wife of 17+ years, were talking about how a pinch of the skin can induce a seizure. We just listened to a radio show discussing epilepsy. I described and modeled to Gina how Sarah was tying on a Celtic armband preparing to go to her mom's, when we passed a guy who saw and said, "Heroin, huh? Nice." We were both in shock because he seemed to pop out of the bushes, then we moved on. She was talking to me but I was filled with thoughts of the past. As I was describing, 20+ years ago, to one of the medical personnel what was happening when she first started seizing, I was making the same motions describing tying on a Celtic armband. It's an armband that's a band that goes around your arm, needing to be tied on. She wore it on her bicep, loved Xena warrior princess. That she knew a second before going down that she was going to have it. This somehow must have been relayed to the doc, or maybe he was watching from the desk, but he must have saw the motions and assumed hardcore drugs. Explanation. I was speaking and using my hands to show what Sarah was doing that gave her a seizure. I mimicked the motion of tying something to your bicep, thinking stupidly that this info would help, and even though this was to the nurse, the doctor saw this motion made from afar. The desk had a line of sight to the room, and seeing this motion without hearing the description looked bad, but didn't realize this until I modeled this recently and someone else mentioned heroin. At the time I was curious why he was so adamant that my wife was on drugs, even after the toxicology test came back clean. Sorry doc for having such a raw, inner hatred toward you for all these years, for judging my wife for no reason outside of us being poor and her being punk rock. If I was an doc I'd have to act on what info I had. I'd still have treated for the most potentially fatal, but I understand a little more now. TL, doctor, I hated an physician for decades for showing prejudice toward my wife when treating. I now understand, after making a tying one-off motion when describing what happened to my wife as she collapsed, that you had reason to suspect drugs after all. Edit/update/clarification of FU, first off, then you for the awards. I left for work at 9 upvotes and now I opened my iPad to check my fantasy pics, and wow. The true FU was harboring all of this resentment towards him, not because it wasn't warranted so much as even docs are humans who make mistakes. And justice was served when 7 of 9 jurors determined that yes, he fell below the standard of care. In my soul I hated this man with a passion, let it consume me. Truly hated him to the point of letting it affect my relationships, familial and otherwise, and me seeing things from another person's eyes allowed me to realize that the mistake he made wasn't maybe that much about prejudice towards Sarah as I previously thought. Thank you all again for this.